Hi, I'm Jeff DeRiso from Beckman Collaborative, and today I'm going to show you how to create a system for using quote templates in Zoho CRM. We'll achieve this using a custom quote templates module that will be integrated with the existing CRM modules using client scripts. Client scripts are a way to create a highly customized user experience in Zoho CRM, allowing you to create contextual UI elements that interact with the user in real time. The result of this will be a template field where the user can simply select their template and the rest of the fields in the quote will be automatically populated, saving you time on creating quotes for your potential customers. So let's get into Zoho CRM and I'll show you how it works. Okay, here we are in Zoho CRM. We're here in the quotes module, and the existing way, if you have a quote that you've already created that you want to reproduce for another client, you can simply go into the quote, just here into the detail view, and click clone. So then you'd have to, of course, change the subject and account and contact and the date and the address, but you'd have essentially the same line items. So that's the default way to do it. But what we want to do is actually create a quote template. So we created a custom module here called quote templates. And if we go to create one, we have sort of a stripped down version of the quotes module that we recreated as a custom module. So we just have a name of the template and how many days it's valid for instead of an actual date, because we want this to be evergreen and we want to apply to future quotes. So because this is a custom module, we don't have the default functionality of the quotes module. And so we actually use the client script to reproduce it here, to recreate it here. So if we want to create a quote template, we choose a product in this subform here, and it automatically brings in the list price and populates our formula fields here. So that is done with the client script. And now in the actual quotes module, this is all done by default. But because this is a custom module, we have to build in this autofill functionality. So that's a very simple client script I'll show you. So client scripts run in the browser, so they're written with JavaScript. So this is not diluted scripting language. They're called client scripts because they run on the client side in the browser. Now, what we are using are these ZDKs. If we look in our library here, we see the ZDK library. I'll leave a link in the description. It's essentially a toolkit provided by Zoho to interact with the pages and records within Zoho CRM. Client scripts are page specific. So the page here is the create page. So when you're creating a quote template, this client script is going to run whenever any cell of a subform changes. And within the script, you see we've been given 3 arguments: the field name, the value, and the index, meaning which row in the subform are we dealing with. So all 3 of those give us the context of the execution of this script. So we check to see if the field name is product, and if it is, we get the specific row, and then we get the information for that product, and we automatically set the quantity to 1 and the list price to be the product price, the product unit price from the products module. So this is a simple way of using a client script to make a custom module feel like it's a native module. But in my opinion, this isn't going in and creating a quote template like this isn't exactly the quickest and best user experience. What we'd actually like to do, if I click cancel here, is go to an existing quote, and instead of having to clone each one and then change everything, what we want to do is make it a template so we can, when we're creating a quote, we can select that from a dropdown and use the template on that quote. So what we've done is in the actual quotes module, if I click on this quote again, instead of clone, we've created a custom button with a client script attached here. So instead of clicking clone, we click our custom button, make template, and that brings up a pop-up screen with what we would call pseudo fields. Now these fields only exist within the client script itself, and then we use the input that we get from these fields to actually create our quote template. So we'll call it So we'll name our template and we'll say the days until expiration, and then we'll click Add Template. And that actually takes us, you see, to the Quote Templates module, to the new template that's been created. And you see there in the templates, there's no account or contact. There's just how many days it's valid for, and then the exact line item configuration that we had in the existing quote. So now instead of manually creating this, it just got created automatically from a quote. But now that it's a template, we can go to our quotes and we say Create Quote. And we have this template lookup field, which is actually a lookup field to this Quote Templates module. So now that we've created one, we can select it here. Here's the quote template we just created with our other client script. And then we have another client script that's running on this create page that once we select this, it automatically populates the template values into our quote, leaving the unique values blank so that we can enter them. So we get the same sort of user experience as when we clone it, but we don't have to go searching for that every time because it's now a template. And you also notice that I'm doing this tutorial 30 days before this January 14th day. So this valid until date was also populated automatically based on the number of days in our template field. So first I'll show you the client script on the detail page here, this make template client script. We'll go to manage client script, and we have this button client script called add quote as template. We'll edit that. So we take our quote values and we store them in a variable, and then we get our input. So I've used my zdk.client get input function, and then I put my fields here, a text field called template name, a number field. This is what we already saw when we ran through the demo. And then this is the header. And then these are our button text here. And we take that input from the user as our name and our days, and we use those to create our quote template. We take all the values from the quote subform using our zdk.page. We iterate through that, and then we populate them into our new quote template subform. And we do the same things for the values, description, terms and conditions, tax, adjustment, and the number of days we get from the user input, of course. So then we create that template and then use zdk.client to navigate to that new template once it's been created. So that's why when we selected add template after we input our values, it automatically navigated us to that new template, because we want that user experience to be intuitive. So that is how we create the template. And now I'll show you the script that we use to populate our template values into our quote itself. So we'll go to our quotes and we'll click create quote. So this client script is actually triggered when the template lookup field is changed. And then we'll click our client script tab here, and then it'll bring out this pop-out screen. And it shows us what we already have, and we can add a new one for this exact create page. So here's our populate quote template script. We'll click edit. So when our template field changes, we check to see if the value is null. If it is null, we clear everything. We clear the subform and we clear all of our fields here that would be associated with the template, because we want someone to be able to change their mind and click on no template and have it clear the fields. But if they do select a template, we want to take the values from that template, and just the same way we did before in reverse, we put them into the quote itself. And we have to, of course, calculate which date from today's date we're going to put in the valid till. And we use our template number of days from our template to calculate that. So we add days to the current date, and that's what gives us our valid till date. And then we take our template fields from the quote template and add them to the quote. And same with our subform fields from our template, adding them to the quote. So with our ZDK methods, we always have to get the field first and then set the value. And then within our set value function, we put the value itself. And with our subform, we have to create each row and then insert each row. And when we automatically insert these rows, it will actually insert an extra row, a blank row. So I chose to simply delete that blank row after we add all of our rows. And those type of decisions are, of course, up to you and the specifics of your business. So these client scripts are what really make this quote templates module work together with the quotes module to create this unique user experience and to make things easier for when you have the same quote that you're often quoting for multiple people. Let me just click on the ZDK library real quick to show you sort of the documentation for that. So we have our page category, which is where we use our get fields. If we want to get the value from a field, we have to first get the field. And we also have our client category, which is where we show our pop-up messages. Get input is what we used when we wanted to prompt the user to enter the name and the number of days for the template. We can also have an alert or a confirmation message, and we use those with our client scripts as well. We can make HTTP requests to outside applications. If we want to make API calls or updates to the data within Zoho CRM, we use this web API, and this will allow us to update, create records, and execute functions. We can actually execute a deluge function from a client script, and we can invoke a connection to connect to other Zoho applications or other applications that we've used our connections for. And there's actually a new method of doing API calls, which is this ZRC method. This actually came out after I wrote these scripts. So in my existing scripts, I'm using the web API methods to add our quote templates, but it could just as easily be done with this ZRC method, which does have some advantages. You can actually use the latest and greatest versions of the API. You can handle file uploads. You can have asynchronous execution in your client scripts. So for the most part, web API works for updating things within the CRM, but the ZRC is, of course, a more flexible and new way to access the API of CRM and other applications, Zoho and non-Zoho applications. The other cool thing that I want to show you is when you're writing these client scripts here in this client script IDE, you have this run button and you can test them. And of course, you get this message that says, when you test, this is actually affecting the production environment. So don't make any updates here in this test screen that you don't want to actually get updated in your CRM, because this is running on your production CRM. So if I select template here and I create this quote to test it, it will actually create a quote in my CRM. But you see here, we've tested it and we get our log messages down here if we click this messages. If we have any logs, if we want to debug here, we can type in log instead of console.log. We can just simply type in log and then type in whatever value you want. And then that will show up in those messages as well as in the console log. So that's how you use client scripts to make a custom module feel like it's meant to be one of the default modules. So next time your sales team wants to recreate a quote that's often recreated, they can simply select a template from the templates dropdown. And now the whole process of creating a quote has become so much easier. So between what we learned in the last video using custom functions and workflows and what we learned in this video using client scripts, we now understand how we can make a custom module turn into something that feels like it's always been there. It feels like it was made as part of the application. And that way the application, Zoho CRM, feels like it's completely customized to our business in our process. And that's really what our goal is at Beckman Collaborative, to help people get to that point where it feels like Zoho CRM is completely customized to your needs. So I hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. Please leave any thoughts or questions in the comments and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.